Hey viewers, welcome once again to Discovering Wellness. Thank you for being here. Today I'm joined by a very interesting person, Pragya Taneja. She's been through the development sector, she's been through a lot of work on the international space, and now she's a facilitator, bringing together people and holding space for them so that they are able to make serious shifts in the way that they work, operate, and deliver. That takes a lot of well-being, I would imagine. And so here we are. Pragya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. Thank you for having me.
It's awesome to have somebody of your background here because it is so diverse. We're talking about uh, multicultural, multinational, of course, multi-ethnic, and we're talking about a commonality that we've had in previous episodes. People saying that we're all about people, and that we're human beings, and we have the same kind of dimensions of wellness as we like to call them. And Pragya, I want to press upon you to explain to us how you see well-being and habits of well-being, what's common and what's sort of working across the kind of people that you consult to, including organizations in the commercial sector and not-for-profits.
To answer your question of what worked, I think the pandemic offered a huge opportunity, and it really enabled a lot of things, for us, and brought people from different parts of the world. Like I think nothing else had done so far. The shared anxiety, the shared sense of uncertainty, and the common challenges of just juggling family, work, shared responsibilities, um, which the situation demanded, of course, because a lot of us did not have house helps. Yeah. So added to that, the idea of attending meetings after meetings after meetings, yeah, all virtual, and then also tackling what was happening on the health front, people falling sick, yeah, in the family, in the immediate friend circle. So my first association of the word wellness, I think it goes back to this point, because employers, that I was working with at that point of time, the clients that I was working with, um, I would see that the majority of these clients um, would understand the importance of allowing for a little bit more flexibility, yeah, in hours, in just holding like a daily check-in call, just to understand if everybody is doing well or not. No? And I think this is where the first time, as I said, at the workplace, the conversation on mental health, perhaps, yeah, more, I would say more in that sense, it became more commonplace, more mainstream than ever before. And I personally know of organizations, where the leadership of those organizations, um, they rose to the challenge of the times, and started, I don't know, multiple initiatives, yeah, to say that, employees are, yeah, equipped, they have the wherewithal and the tools to tackle that situation. So various programs, yeah, yoga is running, and music clubs are going on, and terrace photography competitions are happening, and meditation classes are happening. And that, I think, that emphasis, yeah, that particular time period, when colleagues also were checking in about how people are doing, yeah, so you and me, and I knowing you as a colleague, yeah, in your life context, is something which I think the pandemic really sort of unleashed and enabled for all of us. And seeing people not just as peers and as subordinates or as a boss, but to see them as a whole, person. And I remember a lot of people telling me at that time, oh, I got to know this person much better during the pandemic, because they could know them in their whole context. So, yeah, all of this, I think, Sandeep, happened because of one single factor, according to me. And that's, I think, the core lesson to take away from this experience. And that is that there was a shared sense of vulnerability and fragility of life. No? And this really allowed, I think, people to open up with each other. So I think this meant that uh, the importance of well-being and of prioritizing life, just beyond your work, um, I know people who finally had some time to see their children grow up. Otherwise, they were traveling too much, or prioritizing a new interest. Yeah. And taking out time for yourself, picking up, I mean, I picked up bird watching as a hobby. So the focus on mental and emotional health, I think that is the gift of the pandemic, which I think really, really has worked. Um, Associated with that, I would also say that um, the pandemic enabled, again, to answer your question, what has worked well. Uh, in addition to the concept of work-life balance, which did not really work for a lot of us in the pandemic because we were constantly on the phone replying to emails, beyond working hours and such. But in addition to this work-life balance as a concept, which went out of the window for a lot of us, um, I think this whole lockdown time and period, it enabled for a new paradigm to sort of take its, not its place, I would say. I mean, just take shape maybe.
Mhm.
And this is, I think, I would call it work-life integration. Some organizations did enable that, yeah. And a lot of Scandinavian countries and colleagues, who and peers who I work with, have in fact corroborated that these things are increasingly taking place. Hmm.
Would you think that the caring aspect or the integration aspect is being compromised once again, and we are regressing to the old habits? What do you think is not working in whatever had been set up thanks to the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic question. And I think the answer is yes and no. I
All good
exactly know
answers.
what you mean. Sorry?
Like all good answers.
Yeah. I think some organizations, and I can, say from my experience with some clients who have taken, a backseat again and have gone back to their old ways of functioning. I would say it has happened, yes. But there are some good examples as well. So I think it really depends on, how long do people stay in a particular role, and how do you harvest those learnings, from the experience, and what is the collective, psyche and consciousness within an organization, and all of that really, determines whether people choose to, learn the lesson and continue their transformation journey, or they just fall back to their to their old patterns. But that's a very good question, so thanks for that.
So, what do you think has not worked? There are certain things that you must have also come across that were not sustainable. And if we're talking, you brought up the word learnings. I really love that word because discovering wellness is all about learnings from wellness seekers. What is it that we have learned we ought not to do? And so, come what may, we will not regress back into that.
Hmm. Right. um I think what doesn't work, and I'll be very candid here, is, introducing elaborate, wellness programs, um, without really addressing certain basics, which any organization must have in place, I think. Because no matter how many, organizational programs, around wellness we design, or we run and monitor, or, at some point evaluate, in an organization setup, I think there are a few fundamental elements of work culture and ethics that would lay that groundwork, yeah, for well-being at work. Um, the first one for me, very very clearly, is my role in accordance with my nature and
Hmm.
my strengths. Yeah. So a lot of times you see that there are people who are meant for a particular role, and they're brilliant at it, they excel at it, right? And if that happens, yes, fantastic. No? But a lot of times it doesn't. Or you would notice, that people are hired for a particular role, based on a particular strength or their experience in the past. But with passage of time, you would notice that, their exposure to different, I would say, aspects of work, or different processes in an organization, one realizes that sometimes, people outgrow this affinity with that particular role.
Right. So
Um,
if I am to phrase it differently, what you're talking about is
Mhm.
the alignment of a personal purpose with the purpose in the organization. And
Absolutely.
yeah, very, very, very significant,
Yeah.
deep. And
Yeah.
tell me, Pragya, what is it that you would like to see happening? I mean, what's on your wish list that if I were able to facilitate something like this, that would be like awesome.
Um, I would say number one is that there is a sense of, I mean, in whatever work that I have been doing as a facilitator, um, I personally feel that, one element that I come across in every workshop or a setting or a gathering that I, facilitate is the creation of uh, psychological safety,
Hmm.
you know, and the popular saying that we've heard that people don't leave jobs, but they leave toxic relationships at work, right? That I think is 100% true. So that I think we could do a whole lot more in. I think that is high on my wish list for sure. And I personally can tell you that organizational, when they fail to create that kind of an atmosphere where people are free to express their thoughts or openly challenge ideas and status quo and just receive feedback, give feedback, and just navigate their way through disagreements. If that doesn't happen, then it's something goes amiss over there. And
Absolutely. Yes. A miss is a small word for it. It really
yeah,
backfires on the whole organization.
yeah. So, but when that happens, then people do feel very comfortable and they bring their full real authentic self to their work,
Mm.
and I think that is something which we could really really do with that. I think is a little bit missing from the scene. And the other thing which strikes me is um, the idea of having some self-management based practices, as part of the work culture, integrated as part of the work culture. I think before we really, talk about even working with others, the question really arises: Are we even working, on ourselves? And are we aware of our body? Are we aware of our thoughts, our emotions, and our feelings? Because in my experience, if you can watch, and you can observe these emotions and feelings, then there's a possibility, for you to distance yourself from that and identifying yourself as that, and that creates space for something deeper around you. So bringing these conscious practices at work, it carries immense potential, I think, of transforming the way we collaborate with each other. And these, if you ask me, can be really introduced in, in very small forms, very you can call them meeting rituals, or yeah, small things. You know, maybe one of the team members leading just a 2 minute, presencing practice of just going through, your body scan or something like that, something
Correct.
similar.
And thank you so much for bringing so many points in such a beautifully structured manner, because these are the kind of learnings that we're looking at passing to HR managers, L&E managers, and CXOs through Discovering Wellness. And thank you so much for making them part of this episode. Viewers, keep watching our other episodes. There's a whole library of them. Write to us, stay connected, and make sure you're with us every Tuesday evening when we broadcast a new episode of Discovering Wellness. Thank you for today.